A key barrier to the adoption of digital media strategies is the lack of universally accepted standards around metrics to measure digital media. In this session, the industry experts will talk about the commonly agreed upon solutions and metrics to measure digital media that will make the adoption of digital media easier for Indian advertisers. And we are very happy to announce that in this session, we will be releasing the white paper called Matrix That Matters. And you have the privilege to be among the first few to get your hands on it. So do not miss to grab a copy of it. Download it from the resources tab that is available in the lobby area. Especially given that measurement is such a big challenge in these times, MMA India Board has curated a very robust framework on how best we can measure output matrix and input matrix. So yes, don't forget to grab a copy of a brand new white paper and to talk about the report Matrix That Matters, curated by MMA India Board. We have with us our very own MMA India Board member, Mr. Sandeep Bhushan, Director and Head of GMS India, Meta MMA India Board member. And joining him is Mr. Pratham Hegde, Director and Head of Measurement India, Meta.
Hello and welcome to the next session at the MMA Impact India, where we talk about all the challenges that we as marketers face today in terms of making sure we are able to drive the growth agenda for each one of our businesses. As part of our mandate to accelerate modern marketing practices, we could argue that there is one which is as important as any, which is media effectiveness. The questions that concern the charter for us are the key questions of what are the metrics that matter? And second, how do we think of cross-media impact of our spends across both digital and non-digital media? And this, of course, the question, of course, has huge importance because consumers are certainly meeting us both online and offline, and therefore our communication with them, both organic or in advertising terms, is both online and offline. As part of the MMA charters of last year, measurement or marketing science has been a key charter, and we've been held by a team that we call the Measurement Council. The outcome that you're seeing today is a white paper that the team has brought out, and we call it Metrics That Matter. The white paper is now published and is available in the resources section here. And I'm going to invite my colleague Pratham Hegde, who leads marketing science and analytics at Meta, to talk us through it. Of course, Pratham represents the large team that came together to help us get to a recommendation in this emerging field. And the teams that joined us in this endeavor included teams from Nielsen, Google, Lodestar, and Meta. So on that note, let me hand it over to Pratham to tell us what this report is about and give us a sneak preview of what to expect. Pratham, over to you.
Thank you, Sandeep, for the introduction. I'm Pratham Hegde. I head up measurement for Meta in India. And it has been a pleasure working on this white paper titled Metrics That Matter, along with my counterparts in the publisher industry and agency and research industry ecosystem. So pleasure to be here. So I'm going to talk about the report and give you all a preview of what's contained in the report and why it could be pretty timely in terms of the industry challenges that Sandeep just mentioned. So quickly on to the area of brand measurement in general, which the report touches upon, and outlining some of the key challenges that we see today. I think the first one, and most of you would already be aware of this, is that digital spends overall in India in terms of ad spend is set to overtake TV, and you'll see that from a lot of recent data we are seeing. And hence, the urgency to measure cross-media on a single currency is all the more in the country. And we're probably already late in that game. Because if you look at the current setup to measure audiences, TV and digital overlap, etc., in India, the infrastructure just doesn't exist. And even if you compare not just to Western standards, but also to Southeast Asian countries which have already set up this infrastructure, India is quite far behind. And typically there are panels that help you measure TV and digital audience overlap, or at least the set-top box return data is filed for analysis. So that doesn't exist in India. So that's a big challenge. And the third thing that is on people's mind is also the issue of privacy. And globally, as countries move towards more regulation, there is a challenge of being able to advertise and optimize, as well as being compliant with the regulations and the costs that involve. So these are the key things on people's mind, and the current state of industries today, in which context this report probably sheds more light for the advertiser in terms of just being able to measure metrics, right? So I'll just from here on cover key highlights in the report and give you a sneak peek into what's in it, and then we'll go from there. In terms of the report itself, it touches upon the definitions of key metrics and what metrics really matter for advertisers and should be measured. So what we found in the industry is that a lot of advertisers measure input metrics, which is TV GRPs that went into the campaign, could be digital clicks, overall impressions, reach, etc., which are kind of easy to measure and easy to report. And for the most part, these are seen as the metrics that will help advertisers evaluate outcomes from their ad campaigns. However, as a group, when we aligned on the key metrics to measure, all of us agreed that while these metrics are important to look at, they're actually hygiene metrics that talk about what inputs went into your campaign. And the metrics that really matter are what you see on the right, which are called output metrics. So when businesses spend on marketing and advertising, they really want to know what happened to end business outcomes in terms of either the brand metrics moving up in terms of mind measures, which is ad recall, brand awareness, etc., or some intermediate metrics such as traffic or add to cart if you're an online business, or eventually what happened to purchases and the return on ad spend of the monies they're putting in both online and offline. So one of the key things that we are calling out in the paper is the distinction between input metrics and output metrics. Input metrics are useful, but not as important as end business metrics. Input metrics are easier to measure. And also one of the reasons that a lot of measurement does not focus on output metrics is also it's harder to measure. So simply being able to extract the end impact that was caused on a mind measure or on total sales and extracting the impact that marketing had or ads had is a slightly challenging task. And hence, these are not measured for the most part. And we recommend that businesses should think about metrics this way and focus more on output metrics versus input metrics. So that's one part of the report. The other section in the report gets to the next level of measurement and talks about key methodologies that are available for advertisers today in India to measure output metrics. So if you want to measure brand metrics or if you want to measure impact of ads on sales, what are the different methods that are available for that measurement? So there are simple pre-post, which is time-based measurement, looking at trends and the pros and cons with that. Then there are more advanced studies in terms of geo tests, which is keeping regions dark, but also making sure the design is set up in such a way that there's no bias. Then there are control exposed lift studies, which is splitting the audience as in a classic A/B test to see what ads did or didn't do. And then there's a more complex regression-based market mix models and so on to measure sales impact. So the paper kind of touches upon the key methods and key pros and cons of these methods as advertisers think about measuring outcomes. The report then goes on to also list key tools that are available in India that advertisers could leverage in their quest to measure outcome metrics. So apart from publisher provided tools such as the brand lift that Google and Meta provide, there are cross-media studies, there are match market tests, there are geo-based lift tests, and finally market mix models that a bunch of providers in the country have been making available for some time. Adoption of this, and I'll talk about how this has been adopted in the country in a little bit. But generally, the recommendation is to look at all of them and consider which one suits your business in terms of the current business problem that you're challenging. So these are the tools that are available for advertisers to measure output metrics and gives you a sense for which method and what metrics are being measured. I'll finally go on to the section on advertiser maturity, which the paper considers towards the end. So essentially, as we speak to advertisers and we look at large, medium, small advertisers, agencies, and so on, we concluded that there are three types of advertisers in the country. For the most part, advertisers fit in the basic bucket, which means mostly input metrics are tracked and very few investments are in place to track end changes to business metrics in terms of brand metrics or sales metrics and so on. So for the large part, advertisers in India are at the basic stage. Then there is an intermediate stage where for large spenders, there are brand tracks in place that generally track the movement in brand metrics, but it's very hard for them without further investments or analysis to understand what led to that change or the impact of media on the brand track. So some analysis could be done intermittently using cross-media studies or mixed models, but for the large part, these advertisers use brand tracks to determine the impact of media. So that's the intermediate bucket where some of the large advertisers are sitting. And then there is a mature advertiser, and there are very few of these advertisers in India today who actually go all out in being able to measure the outcomes from every dollar that they spend. And these advertisers are stand out in terms of having an overall measurement strategy to measure impact of portfolio, both online and offline, at a portfolio level, and hence they're able to allocate media spends very efficiently. And they're also have developed a strong test and learn culture. So over time, they run a bunch of lift studies to do control expose experiments, understand the impact of on marketing when you have ads and when you do not have ads. And this is an ongoing culture, and they collect a lot of data across the studies and then develop meta studies to draw insights. So overall marketing strategy is not only to measure, but also optimize continuously and optimize inputs such as frequency, creative, audience targeting. So very few advertisers in India are at this stage, and they are of course some of the largest spenders, but also ones that invest heavily in measurement. So that brings me to the end of this session, and hopefully you're interested enough to go and dig deep into this report and find out what's there. And we look forward to engaging and keeping this conversation going as you go along, and as you get as you have questions, please refer to the contact details provided in the end of the session. And we are very happy as a group to come back and respond to those questions and have a continued discussion. Thank you very much.